Welcome back to the Leadership Podcast with Michael Lee Hickerson and James
Robert.
R.
No,
Sheldon.
don't give it to her. Oh, I wasn't gonna know. Oh, shoot.
I knew it was an R. Ricky Bobby Sheldon. Thanks for being here, you guys, as we dive into another one of Mission's axioms. And like we do on every other podcast, just talk a little bit about what the axioms are, where they came from, and why we're having these conversations.
Yeah, the axioms were just as we had worked together and we're trying to figure out how to create culture together and lead a church together. There were things that we intuitively knew that we didn't ever have really defined. And so we wanted to be able to put those up somewhere aspirational, somewhere tactical, somewhere like we just found them when either something got violated or something was like, yeah, that's so true about how we want to.
You said something I violated.
Yeah,
right?
well,
maybe
true. But it was just something like, okay, we want to make sure that these things are true. These things are like things that are holding our culture in place. And so it was, we really started with a whiteboard in a meeting and we were just talking and we were like, oh, we need to put that up there. And we just kept the whiteboard of things that we wanted to be true about us and kind of went from there. So that's what some of these are.
Yeah. Yeah. So this one today that we're going to be talking about is don't martyr yourself.
Yes.
It's my personal favorite, mostly because I'm really good at it. Not so much the not martyring, but the actual martyring. I'm a pro. I'm so good at this. So where did this come from? Did it come from me? Let's be honest.
Jen.
Did I?
I actually
the motivation
don't know
behind this.
I don't know where we stole it, but I'm sure we got it from somewhere. The idea
actual
is,
martyrs.
The
maybe.
idea is don't tell someone on your team how hard you've worked and how much you've sacrificed for the thing that we are doing. Mm-hmm. Like, that's weird.
Yeah.
Like, let other people, like, it's okay that it's known. Just don't be the one that does it.
I mean, I all joking aside, I actually do think this might have come from me because a pivotal turning point for me, I think, in leadership, my leadership role and learning about leadership was 1 year for Night to Remember. It was me and this other girl. I was still learning like how to delegate, and it had doubled every year, right? So we were using the same systems for 3 times as many people, and just wasn't working, right? So I remember we were there.
That'll break.
Right, exactly. It was like super late. We were there, and I remember I was supposed to come into staff meeting like the next day and basically like go through the plan with the staff and also ask for support for the actual event, which is what we do every year.
Right.
But I remember saying something like, if you think that this is asking a lot of you, well, we've been here all night long, right? And you pulled me out after the meeting. Thank you for pulling me out after the meeting and not during it, and said you can't do that. And it was verbatim, kind of what you just said. Like it's not. Well, first of all, it's not inspiring to work for somebody like that. Like I've worked so hard,
right?
But also, really just that piece of it that just made it seem like I'm the only one working hard here and everybody else are lazy bums and
for the event that you're in charge of.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're all like, doing, so it really was, if we're just going to dissect that, it was like walking in, needing help. You needed help.
Sure.
We wanted the whole staff to help you.
Yeah, right.
And you were saying like me and blank have been here doing all this. So what we need you to do is come in for a couple hour shifts, but we're going to be here all day and blah, 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 blah.
Right.
And then you talked about how it's been a journey getting all this stuff done. And so what I corrected is like, let me say that.
Yeah.
Like, you just make the ask and then let me go, hey, just so you know, guys, Jen and blank have been killing it. We're so grateful for the work that they've put in. And this is a simple ask for us as a team. If that's difficult for your schedule, talk to your direct report. We can talk about that. But we want to make sure that we're jumping in with some hours to support this event that we're all in on. That's way different than you guys should be here. You only have to do 2 hours.
As great as me that worked so hard.
So it is like such a subtle thing, but it pops up a lot. Like it pops up in me. Like I need to let people know all that I'm doing. I'm like, no, I don't. Like, why do I need to? Because that will make me more important. Like, I don't need to martyr myself in front of everyone. There is a example setting and things like that, and nothing's beneath you, and work hard and all that stuff. But there isn't like, yeah, well, I've had a 70-hour week. I don't know what you idiots have been doing. It's like, where are you going to say that? Don't do that to anyone else. So
this is another one though of those axioms. I feel like that you just got to thread the needle, or you're gonna miss it. either and unhealthy on either side. Because if you hear this the wrong way, what you're hearing is just like, martyr yourself privately. Like, just don't tell
On your
anybody.
own.
Don't tell
Yeah.
anybody what you're
but
doing.
like
I don't mean that.
Yeah, like,
Yeah, that's
but
not
that's
true.
what
Yep.
it could lead to very
Sure.
quickly, or be misinterpreted as like that's what we're saying is like, just kill yourself privately. That's
Just
what
make sure
we
nobody
prefer.
knows about it. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Like, and that's
not
not at
healthy
all
either.
what we're saying. The hard part are like the two sides of this coin would be like, you actually do need to tell people what you're doing. So like, even when you said that, I'm like, well, no, like there probably is, but our general rule is like, you tell that up.
Yeah.
So your supervisor, your direct report, the people that are responsible for like your care should know. Challenge may be when you're at the top of the organization or you're running your own company and you're like, well, I don't have that.
Yeah.
So it's either up or it's out. So you should have good peers outside of your company. So if you're in a coaching cohort or network, things like that, like there are times when it's like, I do need to process even what I'm feeling and I'm not healthy right now.
Right.
So where do I go with that? Because
Right.
I can't just fake that until I make it. So it is helpful to have community as a leader where you can process like, I'm burning out, I'm putting too much time in, all of that. And I want to go into that conversation healthy with my supervisor or the team that I'm leading.
Right.
Yep. So I think with finite hours, we have finite energy. Like, so like to realize that as we grow in leadership, like the complexity on our schedule does increase and what we're responsible for output wise. And so it is appropriate for you to, like, if you report to, like, let's say you report to me, it is appropriate for you to go in that night to remember season. Like, I am burning the candle and I am redlining. I'm not tired, but I'm getting there.
Yeah,
And something's
yeah.
like, I'm working 80,
that would've
70.
been- I should've
That's
done
more
that,
than
yeah.
appropriate. Like, that's like even necessary.
Right.
Like, I'm a bad leader for not knowing that.
Yeah. So on the one hand, you have that side where it's like martyr yourself privately. The other side, you could hear that is going, well, don't work very hard. Like they don't
Yeah.
they don't want people to martyr themselves. So like,
Yeah, that's not what we're
Don't
don't
get
work
to the
too hard.
place where
Like
you-
this
yeah.
is awesome. I love this value. Don't martyr yourself.
Yeah, we
Take
often
it
talked
easy.
about
Yeah.
that tension of like,
Yeah.
give your life away, but having a life to give away. So
Right,
like,
right.
but some people are like, I've got such good boundaries, I don't even sacrifice anything.
So I think
Yeah.
organizationally, what we're trying to, I think everything you said around the Night to Remember meeting is where that came from, and that's a good like cultural thing for us. But at the same time, hopefully what we're embedding over years of being removed from that, people have no clue like where that came from, is the expectation as an organization. Where a lot of times what you do and the hours you spend, no one will ever see, especially in ministry. Like it's a weird dynamic coming from the marketplace where it's like, is it an 8 to 5 job?
Yeah.
Because
Aren't
most
you
people
clocking
I'm
in and
working
clocking out?
with and
Yeah.
serving here don't have jobs. So they're expecting to meet at night. And so
Right.
do I put in a 9-hour workday and then I'm available for 2 hours at night for other people? Like it's a weird thing.
I thought we just worked on Sundays.
It's true. One day a week. Yeah. And even then only
do
for
the
a
rest
few
of
hours. So there's this weird, it's a weird dynamic to go.
I think I just martyred myself.
Yeah, you did. Good job.
A lot of what
Thank
we
you for
do is
giving
done
us
in
that
private.
example.
So where do we talk about that? Either for our needs to express like I need someone to just see what I'm doing because I am tired and I don't know that it matters. Like maybe not anything that matters, but like, am I working on the right things? Should I be doing
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
And then there is a speed of the leader, speed of the team scenario to this too, where like you do want to model a good work ethic, but you also want to, I think the thing that keeps that in tension is you want to model a healthy life.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like with that work ethic.
Yeah, there is a management component in this, or direct report, or however you have that set up and whatever you're setting up, that is embedded in it. Like someone should know.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to do it. You don't have to out yourself of how awesome you are, or how much you're sacrificing, or whatever. Someone should know.
Yeah.
So if I've created a system where people are martyring themselves, that means I've also created a system where people aren't knowing what people are sacrificing and can't celebrate them publicly. So that's on, like, don't do that.
Yeah. Well, and I loved that picture. And I think that's why it was such a big learning for me and a healthy shift, because it really became something intentionally that I knew that you guys mind for, but when you're not, or if you're not, because you are managing a lot of other things, that I bring it to you. And in that, I'm able to go, I think I need help. Like in that scenario, I was doing it wrong. We shouldn't have been doing it that way. And I think if I would have said behind the scenes, gone up with it and said, hey, I'm really struggling, you could have helped me think of how could we do this a different way where you guys aren't working, 15 hours or whatever it is. Right. And so So it's actually an encouragement and a good thing. So when you're recognizing that you're in that space, like you start, I see it now, even have language to tell you guys, like, I'm starting to martyr. I need some help. I sing that song when I do.
It's very beautiful.
No. So when you're recognizing like, oh, this is coming up in me. What are some things that you guys do to help keep that in check and stay healthy?
I also think there's personality influenced here, so knowing the personality of your team. But whenever there's imaginary conversations, this is a trigger for me. When I'm having imaginary conversations about a lot of stuff.
About how awesome
but about how much they don't know that I'm doing, or how much they don't see blank, or I should probably tell them. I'm only speaking about me, so I'm not talking about anybody else. But when I'm having that imaginary conversation and I know what I would say when they act or roll their eyes or do blank or say blank, and I'm ready to go because I've already got that, then that's like an internal martyr that's already preparing. So that's when I know I need to pay attention to that. And sometimes it's I need to go up and talk about it because it's a key. It's pointing something out in me. And then there's times in meetings that it'll just fly out. And that's when I gotta have the self-awareness to go like, I don't know where that was. That's somewhere in here, and I didn't know it was here. So you got to own that quickly. Like you don't want to let that linger. But those are some of mine.
That's good.
Yeah, because it is a weird thing. Like sometimes it's just facts. Like I'm not like this is where the hours went.
Yeah.
Like
well, and so
there are times in meetings where that comes up, and that isn't quite. So we can even just ask a clarifying like, are you martyring yourself? Like, but I would say, depending on personalities, like if you're an achiever, if you're wired that way, like part of the hard thing can be you will experience seasons where you do increase your output, and you go through a stretch, couple of weeks, couple of months where you worked an extra 15, 20 hours a week, and what you got was accolades.
20 people said, man, you're amazing.
Right. You got noticed, or you got the thing done, or you hit the benchmark you needed to hit, and what, you're supposed to stop after that? So, or you realize like, wow, look at how productive I could be if I operated at that speed all the time. And so you just go, I'll just keep doing that now because look at all the stuff I'm getting done and all the things. And it's all can be like, have intrinsic motivation and all be great, but it leads to burnout. So this is where it's like it's really hard. Even it's funny. It's like it's hard for me to admit and to be able to say, I don't think I can do everything that's on my plate right now with everything we just decided. So I need permission to say these two things can they go to the back burner and wait 3 months for us to tackle those things.
Yeah. So I'm gonna say that's uber important. So it's not that you are quiet and just put your head down, you're in a meeting and you go get it done. You've got to, like, that's where the humility to go, like, I need help to know. I don't know how to get done everything that I'm responsible for that we just walked out of that meeting with. I'm not doing it in the meeting.
Yeah.
Because we've all been in meetings where somebody's like, well, that's great. If I had 20 more hours, who's going to do that?
Who's going to do that?
I mean, that's great that you all made that decision. None of you all are going to touch it, and we're going to walk out, and I'm going to have to do it all. But I can agree with that decision, I guess. And then the meeting's over, and we're like, well, have fun, dude. Like, I mean, I've seen that meeting. I've been in that meeting. So
I've been that person.
So I think what happens then, if in a healthy way that I've seen him do, is him go, okay, I know we need to get this done. I don't know what to do with what I'm responsible for and where it needs to go. Like, so let's get on the same page instead of martyring. Like, we can't do that because I don't have the time. Then it's like, no, help me with it. It helps. It lets him get on my side and get into my head about what I think is most important for him and the contribution over the next scope of work. Yeah. And that's not martyring. That's actually helpful.
Yeah.
We've done your calendar 25 times over the life of mission of like, what time do you have to give? What hours do you have? What days are blocked out? Like, what responsibility do you own? Do you feel like those are all great things. So that way we know when we're making a special ask or when you're doing too much.
Right. Because it either leads to coaching and going, let's address the way you're working because we can be more productive or more efficient or most of the time, at least with our team, it ends up being like awareness of like, oh, didn't know those all. I didn't know it was on your plate. I didn't know you picked up
Yeah.
those 3 other things that
Right.
that I didn't even know who did those. And I'm glad that you do them. I wouldn't want you to have dropped them.
Yeah.
But I also don't know that I want you to keep doing those
Yeah.
things.
Right. So let's go on the other side, because Jen learned the martyr lesson so well about not martyring
Right.
that we found out years ago
Oh yeah, this is great.
that, wow, man, an organization that's using our building on Friday is doing an amazing job of setting it up for us on Sunday to be able to walk in and it be ready to go. Great job, organization. And then we find out years later that you would come in every Saturday and reset it
clean
because
it.
the organization wasn't doing it right.
Yeah.
And you
like
didn't tell
moving
anyone.
the couch across.
You didn't tell anyone. You weren't martyring,
I
and you
know.
didn't
Jim
ever
was like,
complain.
"What?"
I've been affirming their
no,
wrong
thank you
behavior
so much for
like
cleaning
out
up
of my
so
way
well.
text messages. You guys are killing it. Like we didn't have to move anything on Sunday morning.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, Jen's
The
like, well,
I
opposite
was
of
like, I thought
martyring.
that was my
I
job.
can't hang out with
thought-
my family on Saturday because I got to move
gotta
tables
go
and
take
couches.
care
We're
of
like,
mission.
what?
For sure. Yeah, it's so true. Well, and I feel like that piece of martyr comes up too when you're not doing a good job. Not always, but sometimes when you're not doing self-care, when you don't have a tank to pull from because things are, whether it is too many hours at work or whatever. So what are some ways you guys practice self-care or taking care so that you have the life to give away like you're
I
talking
think
about?
some people literally, there's so extremes. Some people, their work is their value. And so if I'm not performing at work, then I'm not valuable. And so that's wrong. And then there's some people that I don't care one bit about my work. It has nothing to do to define me, and I don't want to give my best to it, and I don't want to, because it's not the most important thing about me. And we know that Christ is the most important thing about us, but it really is. Work is holy, vocationally, and giftedness that we've been given is holy.
Wherever we are.
Yeah. So to say like it defines me or it doesn't define me is too extreme. So like I want to give my best to it, and then I also want to let it go at an appropriate time and wait mentally, because it's not what defines me, but I also want to give my best to it. So I think Sabbath, like a time to get away, rest, not be on all the time, is really, really important. And because I think when I'm putting too much weight, when I'm missing that pendulum, I will put too much weight on it, and I'll work too much to fill gaps that work is not supposed to fill. And then when I'm leaning this way, it's because I am putting weight on other stuff that it's supposed to fill, and I'm not giving my best to my work. So I usually have that pendulum in my mind, and I don't get it right all the time, but I'm navigating that for me.
Sabbath's such a good thing too, because well, it's a command. Like
Your husband had to help me with that one.
TD.
Not a
will remind
suggestion.
you. Not a suggestion.
Actually
It's
made it into the
actually
top
part
10,
of the
like,
10 Commandments.
One of the 10 Commandments.
That's right. Yeah,
The most the most worded one.
right.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's like that because it helps us know where that pendulum is. Like
Yeah.
if it's gone too far to the other side where my work is my value, nothing can survive if I'm not here.
If I don't,
it actually is the practice of going, I'm going to put it down when it's not finished sometime.
Yeah,
if you're erring on that side.
So I'm gonna get out of the way. We're emotional beings, physical beings, relational beings, spiritual beings. Like, and there's probably some more in there. But like we've got to have it. It's no one's job to fill my emotional tank. That is not anyone else's job. It is not anyone else's job to fill my spiritual tank. Like that is my relationship with God. Like, so I've got to figure out what I need to do to get those. I'm responsible to bring the whole me to my marriage, to my family, to my God, to my work. And so I got to do whatever I need to do within reason and appropriately to be able to work hard, to be able to also be the best I can be. So
What
the
do you
replenishment
use
cycle.
to fill your spiritual tank, like real practically?
For me, I drive, worship. I listen to messages. I read. I probably sneaky read a lot of books.
You're voracious. What's that word?
Yeah, I like to read a lot.
Ferocious?
Ferocious.
Ferocious.
I like to read a lot. And I read different things, but and for me, it's ironically alone time, because I'm very relational. But alone time and driving and thinking is helps replenish my soul. Music helps replenish my soul.
Yeah.
So I listen to a ton of music
That is
all the time. So.
That's good.
Yeah, I think that's the replenishment cycle. The thing you're talking about: physical, intellectual, emotional, spiritual. And that's a tool. It's a tool that we've tried to use on staff
We're
here.
going to be doing that.
But I would say that like I've screwed this up. Like I'm 2 years ago, I was really close to burnout. And the further I get from it, the more I probably realize like, I was actually really close to burnout.
I'm a really good leader.
Yeah.
Well, again, like
You
whose
can't burn out,
responsibility
Jeff. We
is
really
it?
need
Like it's my responsibility.
know.
Because here's I would say some of the things that I would want to maybe let people know that are listening to it of like, you don't have an awareness of even the things like you were talking about. Like you aren't thinking through that lens, like when you're in the midst of burnout. So there are some symptoms, I think, and we've talked about this with our staff team. It's like super helpful. And some of those symptoms are like irritation, like how easily irritated are you? How easily discouraged are you? But more than that, it could even be things of like, you're no longer rested after sleeping.
Yeah.
You wake up tired, you can't get enough rest, or what used to replenish you doesn't. So you'll come back after a 2-week vacation and almost be frustrated or mad that you don't feel any, and everyone's expecting you to be like, I'm so glad you got that break and now you're ready to keep going. And it's like, no, I'm actually more tired than when I left for vacation, and I don't know why that is.
Family.
Yeah, totally. And there's like this lack of an extra gear.
Yeah.
So a lot of us have, maybe you know what I'm talking about. Like you have these times where it's like more is demanded of you, and I can shift it into overdrive, and I can get more done, or I can buckle down for another hour and I can get this done. And it's just, that's gone. Like you don't have the ability to like kick it into another gear, or like I really became aware of like my productivity was going down. What used to take me an hour was now taking 3. Decisiveness was a strength, and now I'm indecisive. So there was like all of these things, which I was not identifying as burnout. It was just frustrating me.
Yeah.
And I was having to work longer, and it was like this bad cycle. So
I would imagine there's a lot of people feeling a lot of burnout in COVID and even like this season.
Right.
Like
so I would say the
more
hard
than
part is
usual,
like you don't know you're in it.
Right.
And someone close to you may need to be the one that points it out to you, or you're going to have to, like, part of your spiritual discipline, maybe incorporating that into your soul care and genuinely asking the question, how am I doing? And just, that's a repetitive question. Like we've joked about repetitive questions, but I would say like a practical spiritual discipline, if you want to know with martyring how you're doing, would be to sit down for 10 minutes and just think about that one question and answer it, and then ask it again and ask it again and answer it. Do it 3 or 4 times, and you're going to see the onion start to get peeled back a little bit.
So what he means is, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm great. I'm
Okay.
fine. Yeah.
How are you doing? How are you, like 20 minutes of just keep filling in that sentence. And then I would flip it at the end. Like, this is one that I've learned to myself that I've used is, if you weren't doing okay, what would be going on? Like, if there's anything that's not okay, what would it be? Like, to ask it from the negative instead of like, how are you doing? I'm good. How are you doing? I mean, I'm a little worn out. How are you doing? I miss my daughter in college. How are you doing? Like, you start getting down there. Well, if anything, if you weren't doing okay, what would you say? Like, or if anything wasn't okay, what would it be? What would it be? It's like, oh, well, fill in that sentence.
Yeah.
Because that
It's a
gets
question
down there.
we hardly ever honestly ask ourselves, I feel like, sometimes when you really, I remember one time I was in a yoga class and we were doing the very end Shavasana, where you just lay there. It's so great. Usually fall asleep. I know you guys don't know what that means, but
totally
anybody that
experienced
does
that, yeah.
yoga knows what I'm talking about. But anyway, she said that, like, how are you? And I remember I started bawling. Like, I was like, I haven't asked myself that in so long that I didn't know. So I've used that tool since, because we hardly ever ask ourselves.
So
really, honestly,
when you walk into environment as leaders and we don't know, and we haven't checked in with our core soul and emotion, like, we're gonna have the tendency to martyr, because we're looking for affirmation and acceptance from everywhere else. So like, going back full circle is like, that's like bringing a whole you to the table helps you bring the healthiest you to the table that you can, helps you see some of that in other people that is lacking.
Yeah, it's good. Well, thanks, guys. That was super helpful. We're going to be doing the replenishment cycles as part of Leadership Academy. So that is hugely helpful to know, like, some of those key things that you need when you start feeling that martyr creep up, that maybe those need some attention.
And bonus work is like, do it yourself and then share it with someone that'll hold you accountable.
Yeah.
No, just do the work.
Why would you do that? Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much. And we will see you next time on the Leadership Academy podcast.
Peace.